So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about 3 time truths. And right out of the gate, I already know what your expressions and your responses are going to be to this. And the responses and the expressions are going to be, ugh. And the reason for it is these 3 time truths, even though every single one of us knows them, we don't like hearing them. And the reason for it is it forces us to be adults. And everybody here knows that adulting is hard. But nonetheless, we've come to church today because we all know and understand that growing up and adulting, it really isn't an option. It's going to happen one way or the other. The more that you embrace it, the better it can become. And so today I want to talk about these 3 time truths that if we know them and we remember them and we continue to think about them, they will impact our lives, and particularly it will impact how we spend our time. So let's dive into this. Here's time truth number 1, okay? And you all know this again to be true. There is no such thing as absolute control over amount or quality. And we know this to be true because we all know that there are people in our lives that we are personally connected to, some of us personally having experienced this truth, that you don't have control over that something can happen that's completely outside of your control to change your well-being. We know that's true. In fact, you guys may not know this, but Ty, who is our guitarist, who was playing all those sweet licks, in his 20s was diagnosed with cancer. Now he's beaten it. But a 20-year-old getting diagnosed with cancer, what's up with that? In our minds, we all go, wait, time out. That doesn't seem right. My nephew, when he was in his 20s, was diagnosed with diabetes type 1. That's a game changer. These are the things that help us to understand sometimes, even though it's a popping of the bubble, man, we don't have control. There are some people who have looked at this time truth number 1, and they've realized, man, there's no possible way. There's no absolute control for me to extend my life or to make it better, and I hate my life the way that it is. And with that knowledge, they have chosen to end their own life, believing that they still have some sort of a control. I'm sure that every single person in this room has been impacted by suicide. If not, chances are you will be at some point in time. I actually know many people who have been blinded by their pain and suffering, and because they couldn't see any way out, they have chosen to take their own life. But my response to that would be this: that's not what God wants. It's not what God wants, not exactly. In a roundabout way, the thing that God really wants, you might say, is the suicide of a self-governed life. That life that you and I have imagined for ourselves, the thing that you and I would like to spend all of our time on pursuing, that life, that's the life that God says, I want you to kill that, and I want you to give it over to me. And this leads me to time truth number 2, okay? Time truth number 2 is God wants us to give him all our time back. We know that. For those of us who are followers, we know that. It's not necessarily a truth that we like to hear, but the fact of the matter is that is the truth. And it's been stated that way since the very beginning. There is no such thing as a bait and switch here. You and I both know that what Jesus said right from the very beginning is this, Matthew 16, 24 through 25. Then Jesus said to his disciples and all those who were listening too, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way. I could stop right there. We got to give up our own way. Take up your cross and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. God wants us to give all of that back. What he's hoping is that time truth number 1 will go and hit us and awaken us to the fact that there's no possible way that we can experience the kind of life that we want to outside of him.